is Spider-Man's top web-swinging speed in Spider-Man for the PlayStation 4.
Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a different kind of video. Another one of those different kinds of videos that I keep recording and uploading in lieu of other things. Except one of them, I cannot upload. It was a Battle of Big Rock analysis, and I can't upload it because I must have done it wrong. I must have basically used way too much footage. So, unfortunately, that will not be going up as I had predicted. My name is Brandon Chamber the Wraith, and if you did not read the title, today we are going to be analyzing what I think will be the roster for Injustice 3. Now, there's a couple of caveats I want to get out of the way right now. Number one, this is a total prediction list. Do not expect this to be the actual roster. I'm predicting this thing like 2, maybe 3 years out from its release. So don't take my, at least 2 years from release. So do not take my word as gospel, okay? I mean, you probably don't anyway, but just in case you do, don't. Now, and secondly, I'm going to be making a couple of assumptions. I have a notepad thing for my roster here. Including the pre-order bonus, of which I'm a little bit unsure of, there's going to be 30 characters in this roster. And that sounds like a lot, but Injustice 2 launched with 28, not counting Darkseid, who is 29. So I think a 30-character DC launching fighter makes perfect sense. Mortal Kombat seems content to be starting at 24, but I think I'll go for 30 because that feels like the safest bet. And you can already see that most of the squares are covered, but not all of them are, and that's because these 10 characters here are guaranteed. I think these are like the Scorpions, your Sub-Zeros, and your Raidens of the game. I would be absolutely shocked if Batman and Superman, for instance, did not make the game, because this is what the conflict ultimately is about. It's ultimately about Batman or Superman, insurgency or regime. And then with that, you have to have members on each side. So we have Harley Quinn as a member of the insurgency, and she's incredibly popular. She's almost, it's a bit of an odd comparison, but she's almost like the Sonya Blade of this game. Do you know what I mean? Like, she is the de facto female for this game. And then you have Kitana a la Wonder Woman here. That's a better comparison because they're both princesses, but it's weird to compare Harley to Sonya, but you get my meaning, right? Like, these two are the most iconic females, so I don't think they're going to get dropped at all. Aquaman, this game made Aquaman super really popular before the movie ever did. Like, it made Aquaman a badass. So I think they're going to keep that. Green Lantern's also a shoe-in. Flash is a shoe-in. I think I have to double check, but I remember hearing that Ed Boon's favorite character was the Flash. Catwoman is Catwoman. Again, like Harley Quinn, she's way too popular to drop. Black Adam is here as an interesting side because I think, so far as bad guys go, Black Adam is one of those surprising characters that I think definitely has a shout at being one of the top 10. And I can't see them dropping Black Adam because Black Adam is sort of a parallel to Aquaman in the sense that he rules his own kingdom and has godlike power. And he and Superman were kind of buddies at one point. So I could almost see Black Adam being a weird, one of the odder mainstays. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example here. Like, why Johnny Cage is a mainstay. Johnny Cage is comedic relief, and he's popular, sure, but I'm not sure if he needs to be a mainstay. But Black Adam certainly is going to be that mainstay. And my least favorite, by far, of the mainstays is the Joker. I would think that if Injustice ever drops Joker, it would not be in Injustice 3, because the Joker movie is coming out. That's why we got Joker in Mortal Kombat, guys. And he's got such a huge fan base that some of them might argue, well then why don't you drop Batman if you're gonna drop the Joker? especially because, you know, Batman and the Joker are connected. Unfortunately, I think Joker's going to stay a launch roster character. If anything, I would love for him to be DLC, just so that he's not on the launch roster, he's not affecting the story, he's not wasting roster space, because usually I complain, usually I'm not a big fan of people who say, oh, this character took up roster space. But in this case, but in Joker's case, he actually kind of does, because he's dead. There's no reason for him to come back unless one of the 3 pre-order bonuses, who by the way are all cosmic level bad guys, has anything to do with that. But I doubt they're going to pull his version, but we'll get to him later. So that's my top 10. That's my guaranteed top 10. These are the guys that are coming back for sure. I'd be stunned if they didn't. You know what I mean? So, with that out of the way, let's talk about cross-promotion, because that is totally the reason why the roster for Injustice is the way it is. It's why we got Captain Cold, Atom, why we got Reverse Flash and Jay Garrick Flash as premier skins. Why we got a roster that seemed pretty heavy in the CW side, because the CW shows were super popular at the time and they were coming out with new ones. I think Supergirl came out not long before Injustice 2 came out, or was revealed. So the CW presence was really strong for that cross-promotion. And then, of course, you have the likes of Black Manta, who is DLC because of the Aquaman movie. So for these characters, I'm going to explain why I think they're going to be in the game via their cross-promotion. First up is my girl, Black Canary. And I'm aware I have a huge bias for Black Canary. She is my favorite DC character of all time. But she honestly has a really good shot of coming back for one key reason. She's in the Birds of Prey movie. And I think of the properties that we have right now, Birds of Prey is going to have a more than noticeable effect on the roster. We're going to see some Birds of Prey characters for sure. And, I mean, hell, we might even see Huntress as DLC, for instance, or something along those lines. Again, the roster that I built, I just kind of built in the moment, but I really think Black Canary is going to come back, especially if she has a standout scene and she's really popular. If she doesn't come back as launch, I think she'll be DLC. I really think Black Canary is going to come back because of that. And speaking of Birds of Prey, we're going to get to our first brand new character in... Where is she? There she is. Cassandra Cain, Batgirl. Cassandra Cain is going to be in Birds of Prey, and people have been wanting Batgirl to come back for a pretty long time. Actually, I'm just going to take my blanks and put the new characters above. That doesn't do anything bad. Yeah, looks like we're good. I haven't done anything with using Photoshop as like the video subject before, so bear with me for a second. So I think we're definitely going to get Cassandra Cain. I did a pretty bad job at the erasing. Hold on. There. I know there's a bit at the bottom that I missed, but how I'm going to position her, it's not going to matter. I think we're going to get... if we're just going to use the Injustice 2 roster as kind of a template, I think we're going to get Cassandra Cain right about here somewhere. Yeah. So this isn't going to be like an ultimate finale thing, but I think this is where Cass is going to be. And she's in Birds of Prey, so she's going to be in as cross-promotion. She's also Batgirl, who has been a highly requested character to come back, at least the Barbara Gordon version of Batgirl. And because of how Cassandra Cain is, I think she could provide a fairly interesting approach to the Bat family. See, she doesn't really defend herself. She doesn't really block, at least in the bits that I read, which is like the Silent Night anthology, which took place after No Man's Land. Her deal is that she doesn't defend. She reads body language, so I can see her almost being very parry heavy. Next, we have another returning character. We have another returning character coming from Injustice 2, just like Black Canary, and that is Cheetah, because Cheetah is apparently going to be the main protagonist of Wonder Woman 1984. So, with her on there, and the fact that Wonder Woman's getting a movie this year, I think her and a couple of other, and at least one more Wonder Woman villain is going to be there when we'll get to her. So I think Cheetah is going to make it on the basis that she is the main enemy of a Wonder Woman movie, and you know how DC loves their cross-promotion. I think our next cross-promotion character is going to be Mara. There we go, Mara. She is, she had a role in Aquaman. Quite a few people actually requested her for Injustice 1, if memory served, and Injustice 2. And she has a sort of talent that not too many people I'm gonna move Batgirl if I can. Move Batgirl to be right here. Right next to Batman. Right next to Batman, Black Canary, Harley Quinn. And then Mara, I'm gonna slap right next to Aquaman because white and all that. But she has hydrokinesis. She has water-based powers, and we know that the NRS guys can do great things with water-based powers. I mean, they have a whole ninja dedicated to water. So I could see maybe some bubbles and water traps and things. More of a zoning water-based thing as opposed to Aquaman's trident bias. This one might be a little bit controversial, but I honestly do not care because this is too good of an opportunity not to have Batwoman in the game. Now, I know, a lot of you people are not too keen on how the Batwoman show is right now, but don't fret. You can fret about my poor eraser job. Give me a minute. You can fret about my bad erasing job, but you can't fret about Batwoman being in because she was also fairly highly requested, and she has something that the other characters so far, that the other characters besides Black Canary and Cheetah so far don't have. That's a presence in the Injustice games. Granted, it was the mobile game, but she still had a notable presence in the Injustice in Injustice 2's mobile game, where apparently she was kind of a clone of Batgirl. Never got far enough in that game to actually get Batwoman. But they also have her feature in the Injustice comics. So she has a comics pedigree, and she would be a great way to introduce more sort of comics exclusive characters into an actual Injustice game where she could actually be playable. And I really hope that they do that. Even if it's just to cross-promote the CW show, I think that'll be okay. The next three characters all have one thing in common. Oh, and I forgot to mention too, Cassandra Cain could have a Barbara Gordon's Premier skin. I am not touching Premier skins yet. I may, but I don't think I will. First up, though, we're going to talk about DC Universe's Titans, which got renewed for a second season, and people have started to like, even if, again, some character things have apparently caused issues. I've not seen it. But because of the Titans' presence, I think we are going to be getting the most amount of Teen Titans we've seen, the most amount of Titans we've seen on the roster to date. Starfire, I think, is a shoo-in. She's definitely going to be in. She was very popular in Injustice 2, and she was sorely missed in Injustice 1. Raven, I think, is also going to be in. She was another fan favorite from the Injustice 1 days. Forgive the odd angle. I just grabbed this from the Injustice 1 roster, so I know the angle's going to be a bit funky, but bear with me there. And I honestly think that we are also going to get Dick Grayson back. We're going to get Nightwing back, and I think it's going to be mainly Dick Grayson. It could very well be that it'll be Damian Wayne's Nightwing, because in the Injustice universe, Damian Wayne took over as Nightwing. But I honestly think that if they wanted to truly cross-promote, they would probably find a way to get Nightwing in, and to get Dick Grayson back from being Deadman, as he is currently in the Injustice universe, and bring him back as Nightwing. Maybe with some spectral kookiness left over to give some extra powers, but I think that's what it's going to be. I think it's going to be Nightwing. And that's it for cross-promotion so far. Because we're going to be going on to the three characters that I think are returning from previous games that do not have immediate cross-promotion. With one exception, because I seem to remember him appearing in one of the DC Universe shows, but I don't remember which one. But we're going to start with the first one that doesn't, and that's Supergirl. I think the way that they made Injustice 2 end, I think Supergirl makes the most amount of sense to be in the game. Either they go with the bad ending, which I really hope they don't do, and they kind of have her escape, and she has to rebel against the regime again, and maybe free Batman from being brainwashed by Superman and so on. Or with the good ending, she takes over Superman's spot and is a hero, and then Superman escapes, and then we get problems. Injustice 3, Superman escapes. Sorry. I don't know why I thought that was funny, but I did. And then next, this could be biased talking, but I think Green Arrow should come back as well. The only reason why he's not like a shoe-in is because, actually now that I think about it, personally I think Green Arrow is more of a guarantee than Black Adam is, so bear that in mind. So I think Green Arrow has the best shot of has probably the best shot out of anybody in Injustice that isn't a guarantee to come back. He's a very popular character, he's very instrumental in Injustice, and we know he actually does quite a bit in both of the Injustice stories, so I think Green Arrow is probably going to come back. This Ollie's Not Dead, the one that came from, I'm guessing, Earth, we're going to call it Earth 3, I guess, because we have the main universe, then we have the Injustice universe, and then we have the Earth that this Green Arrow came from. And then we have the one that I feel like is probably cross-promotion, but I don't remember where, Cyborg. So just going to deselect that. Cyborg is another one of those gimme return characters because he's pretty popular, especially because we're having so many Teen Titans type of characters, and Cyborg was a Titan. So this will actually also be the first time I think this is the first time in a long time that of the original Titans roster, we've had more than 3 of them. If you count Damian Wayne as a Robin, if you set aside that as Damian Wayne, in Injustice 2 we had Robin, Cyborg, and Starfire of the OGs. Then we have Injustice 1, Raven, Nightwing, and Cyborg. So I think having 4 of the 5 come back, and then maybe I'm gonna actually very quickly change something here. I think number 4, another Titan character that we'll get to in a minute, and I'll have to go grab her image. If you will permit me just a minute, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I got the other character that I kind of forgot about. She's gonna be, I feel like she's probably gonna be DLC, so bear that in mind. But we'll talk about that later. Next up, yeah. So that's all of the returning characters and all of that. Now we get into all of the new characters. And honestly, right off the top of my head, as soon as I remember what I named him, there we go. Right off the top of my head, I know exactly who I want first off. And I want Static Shock. I think, not just want, but think. And here's why. Static Shock has been snubbed not once, but twice for being on the roster for Injustice. He made the Injustice 1's mobile game. He made Injustice 1's mobile game, for starters. And as a mobile exclusive character, so he can only be played there, even though he has a unique moveset. And there was talk that he was he would have been cut from the list, but don't do that. That's cut off more of his side. And he's been snubbed, and that image is actually from concept art for Injustice 2. He didn't make the launch roster, and that was announced before the game came out. So we thought he was going to be DLC. That didn't happen because Raiden got on DLC, and they shoved Black Lightning in there. And I feel like that might have also been a roster rob. A roster steal, basically. So he's been snubbed twice, and people want Static Shock. They would be insane not to put Static Shock in Injustice 3. Maybe even as one of the first announced characters. Another very popular character who I think is probably going to be in the game because he has concept art. Because much like Static Shock and much like several of the other characters here, there's concept art for this character. In this case done by John Murray, as well as a few of the other cases that I will note. that means that they were talked about being put in the game but did not make it this time. And I think next is John Constantine. I think Constantine has a huge shout to be an Injustice for one in the Injustice 3 roster for a couple of key reasons. One, he's magic based. There aren't very many characters in the Injustice rosters that have been strictly magic based. I mean, Wonder Woman, yeah, sorry for squishing you there, Constantine, but I'm sure you don't mind. You don't really care. Just to kind of make you fit. Wonder Woman has had magic, sure. We have had Dr. Fate. We've had Raven before, but ultimately magic is not a super common power set. A lot of these are more traditional superpowers, like Superman stuff or Green Lantern stuff, that sort of thing. John Constantine could bring an interesting bit of magic to the table and be very sneaky. I feel like he could be a very crafty character and all of the magic possibilities that you could have. Plus, John Constantine has had a big role in Year 3 for Injustice, which is all magic-based. Constantine has had a lot going for him, has had a lot going on in the comics, so he's another comic character that could transition into the actual game, much like Batwoman. And then we have another character who isn't quite cross-promotion per se, but is still worth noting because she's a Wonder Woman villain. So you probably already know who I'm talking about. But in case you don't, I'm talking about Cersei. And Cersei is another magic-based character and she's a goddess. She is a true god. And I think if we're not going to get Ares, give us Cersei. And I think I wouldn't mind if Cersei replaced Ares, because Ares as the god of war, perfect character for a fighting game. But overall, Cersei probably brings more to the table from a fighting game aspect, because she's general magic as opposed to just wartime magic, so there's probably something she can do that Ares can't. And she's definitely a long-time villain of... She's a big, long-time villain of Wonder Woman, so she deserves a shout at the roster. That art also belongs to came from John Murray. Next, how long do we have? Next is a character who also got snubbed. Pretty bad from Injustice, first making an appearance in his Arkham City form in Injustice Gods Among Us, and he's had quite a few comic appearances, and he's a staging transition in Injustice 2, just like Black Manta. And he had a movie that came out around the same time, so we thought he was going to be in. Killer Croc did not make the launch roster, nor the DLC roster. Whoa. But what he did do was make it into Injustice multiple times as a cameo. So I think, and he can fit a role that we don't have on the roster yet, which also benefits his chances of coming in. He is a grappler. He was originally a wrestler and of both alligators and people before his condition got to be too much. So having Waylon Jones as a grappling type character, more bestial combatant, I think would be a very smart play. And plus it gets more Batman villains in there, and DC has quite the penchant for Batman villains. So at least it's like somebody interesting and not just the Joker again. Another John Murray concept character here. We've got Etrigan. Another thing about Killer Croc is that he's the first actual big body character that we've got on the roster so far, and I think Etrigan could also fit the big body thing pretty well. Maybe not as necessarily a grappler, but more as a brawler. And what would be a pretty cool trait would be if he had a stance switch which allowed him to turn back into Jason Blood to get all kinds of different moves. More swords play and parries and things, whereas Etrigan's all about being a demon and beating the crap out of your opponent. And Is she the last one? Yeah, she's the. This one coming up is the last of the John Murray concepts. But when I saw her, I was immediately hooked. I needed to learn more about this character, fell in love, and as a Bat Family character, she has a particularly interesting shot at getting in. Not even mentioning the fact that as she already has had a pedigree, at least in the concept art design, and Injustice loves to try new characters, I think our next, this next character is going to be Bluebird. She's very new. I think she only started showing up in the New 52, and her name is Harper Rowe, and she is the gadget, and she's more of a gadget lady than even Bruce is, to the degree that she made her own gadget, and it includes stuff like a taser rifle and things. So I think if we get Bluebird, so the fact that they were considering Bluebird for Injustice 2, I should say, has me very, very excited, and I really think that they should consider bringing her in, at least in some form or another. And that is it, because slot number 29 I could not think of. So I'm gonna move Cassandra Cain. I'm going to move Cassandra over a little bit if I can find her. I think I'm gonna move Cassandra Cain over here. Move Batwoman over here. Like, obviously the spots don't really matter where they are because we kind of got roadblocked. And I'm going to put in green, just because I feel like doing green today instead of purple. I feel like in green we're going to have old question mark, because this isn't a hint for the Riddler. This is my I don't know. I legitimately don't know who they could put here, because there's too many options. You could in theory have a returning character. You could have, right off the top of my head, you could have a Hawk Girl, or you could have a Shazam, who we'll talk about later, or you could have a brand new character. You could have Killer Moth, for all I know. That slot is open. But now it's time for pre-order bonus, and this is where things are going to get a little bit messy, because I have not one, not two, but 3 ideas for pre-order bonuses. And that's one of them right there. And I think this one right here is the most likely. This pre-order bonus is going to be the most likely right of them. This is the Anti-Monitor. The pre-order bonus tends to be a boss-type character. And we've had Brainiac as a playable character already. We've had Darkseid. And unless Darkseid becomes kind of the main villain, I don't see Darkseid coming back. So if we're going to have a main bad guy, I think the Anti-Monitor would be the most likely pick. And I do apologize if we got all pixelated, but yeah, I truly think that the Anti-Monitor is my most likely pick. But the second most likely pick, by a little ways, by quite a ways, but it's not like neck and neck, second place, is, again, I keep, note to self, I need to name my layers better. Where did she go? Where did she go? There she is, 68. Okay, so this character is very interesting. She's the newest of the characters, but I have a pretty good reason for not wanting her to be the pre-order bonus, but a reason to want her to be the pre-order bonus. This is Perpetua. She's a brand new character to the DC universe, and her deal is that she's like, she's the one above the monitors. She's the one who created the Anti-Monitor and the monitors and all of them, and she's the one who's manipulating multiverses and creating multiverses, and she has some crazy plan that the Justice League and the rest are going to have to stop. Potentially. She is second place, and the reason why I don't think she should be in the game, at least just yet, it's not because she's too new. Too new is never going to be a reason for me to say I don't want a character in the game. The problem with Perpetua is way too big for a game like Injustice, in the sense of, when it comes to power level, she's virtually unrivaled. She makes multiverses. She's like Chronica on steroids. So if we're gonna have her ever become the villain of Injustice, at the very least she needs to be the villain for Injustice 4. Because for Injustice 3, it's way too early to pull somebody like that. It would be better to pull a Darkseid or an Anti-Monitor, or you really, really want to. The problem is that this roster isn't really designed with this in mind. Excuse me, we'll talk more about that. Necron. The Black Lantern. Have a Blackest Night version. Have a Blackest Night Injustice style, and have him as the pre-order bonus and as the final boss, and then you're pretty well sold. The problem is that I don't know if they're going to do Blackest Night. And the way I've designed the roster based off of just pure logic and my best guesses, they won't be doing a Blackest Night style story, so Necron is actually quite unlikely outside of those circumstances. But I'm going to leave Perpetua up at the front just because I think she looks the coolest, but that pre-order bonus slot is open to 3 separate characters, and it's really hard to know for sure which one it's going to be. And we will definitely talk more about Necron later. But now that's kind of our launch roster. That's what we got. To recap, for those who have decided to skip to 32, 35, or whatever the actual time code ends up being, this is going to be what I think the final roster is going to be. That's the launch roster, including the pre-order bonus. So we've got Batman, Harley Quinn, Aquaman, Green Lantern, Flash, Catwoman, Joker, Black Adam, Green Arrow, Wonder Woman, Superman, Etrigan, John Constantine, Supergirl, Static Shock, Cyborg, Mera, Aquaman, because somehow I forgot to say him, Batwoman, Cassandra Cain, Killer Croc, Cersei, Cheetah, Bluebird, Nightwing, Starfire, Raven, and as the pre-order bonus, one of 3 characters, whether they be Perpetua, Necron, or the Anti-Monitor, who I can't pull out, who I'm not going to pull out. That is your launch roster. And I predict we're going to get probably 10 DLC characters, so just for the hell of it, and just because this is already an insane video to try and make, let's go nuts. Let's get nuts and talk DLC. First off, Beast Boy. Beast Boy. If you do not make it Injustice 3 as DLC, because I imagine they're going to want the extra time to get your rig done and your crazy power set done. But if they don't get you into Injustice 3 somehow, I'm going to be very disappointed in NetherRealm. More than I already am some days. But Beast Boy needs no introduction. Beast Boy is the fucking shoe-in DLC. He would probably be the Red Hood of Injustice 3. You know what I mean? Like the first DLC, the one in the first pack, and the one that everybody's like, oh my god, yes! Then, because it's practically fucking tradition at this point, we're gonna get a Mortal Kombat guest. I can almost guarantee you we're going to get a Mortal Kombat guest. The question then becomes, who is the guest? Because, so far as guests go, we've already seen the big 3, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Raiden. From there, you've got at least 10 options to choose from. I'm going to say Liu Kang, because Liu Kang is the next most well-known character. The hero, the Shaolin monk and all that, but it could very well be Sonya Blade or Katana. Hell, they might even put Melina in here as a gag. Why not? But a Mortal Kombat character making the Injustice roster is practically tradition at this point. So that's the only guarantee, like, alongside these 10 characters, this is the only guarantee I can make, is that we are going to get a Mortal Kombat DLC character. guarantee you that. Number 3 is going to come as a huge surprise to a lot of people, especially those who are not familiar with what went down in an Injustice comic that's supposed to take place after the bad ending for Injustice 2. He-Man. Now I know what you're thinking. Hold on. I know exactly what you're thinking. You're looking at me going, hold the phone. You want motherfucking He-Man to be an Injustice? I don't want him. I think he's going to be in. I only really want him just because of how ridiculous the idea is to begin with. You know what I mean? But short of having the power of Grayskull, He-Man actually did something very interesting. He, in a weird sense, is quasi-canon to the Injustice universe, kind of? Because in the Injustice 2 comic that I mentioned, where it's based off of the bad ending, where Batman is still under the control of Superman and so on, and Supergirl has to kind of get a rebellion going with Harley and all of them, they cross over with He-Man, bring He-Man over to the universe, and have He-Man and his crew fight Superman. Free Batman, I think hang on. I've got to confirm this really quick because I don't want to be talking out of my ass. But I think, if I remember right, yeah, okay, Wonder Woman fucking dies. Wonder Woman dies. Look at this. This is from CBR. No thanks. Teela killed Wonder Woman. Damian Wayne also dies, and this shot is just so bizarre. It's He-Man people like Fisto and some other dudes I don't freaking remember going up with like Swamp Thing. Batman gets freed. This madness is insane, and I love it. And because of that tie-in that they did, I can almost guarantee you that we're going to see He-Man in Injustice 3. If it's an almost guarantee because by that point it'll be about 4 years ago. But He-Man definitely has the best shot, and he could be of all of the surprise guests, of like your Power Rangers and your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles who made it in Injustice 2. You know what I mean? He-Man is that surprise pick. And number 4, because I was going to stop there and say that the rest were unknowns, but this is the other one I think is a good shoe-in. Donna Troy, or Wonder Girl. Now, the thing with Donna Troy is that she's in an interesting situation because she literally came to my mind last minute. She was, before I hit record, she was the person I went and just grabbed a render for because like, oh crap, I completely forgot about her. Give me a sec, guys. Because of Donna Troy. Now, Donna Troy is also going to be cross-promotion for Titans. That much we can say for sure. And with Donna Troy, I'm not sure if she's going to make launch or if she's going to be DLC like I imagine Beast Boy. Because we still have that one open slot. And if the roster looks anything like this, Donna Troy is probably could make launch or could be a DLC character. Now, some of you might be saying, well, why not make her a premier skin for Wonder Woman? Now that I think about it, Donna Troy is just in a very interesting situation. I have her as DLC in this roster, but she could be one of 3 things. She's very easy to slot in because she has 3 different ways to be slotted in. She could be a launch character on her own. She could be a premier skin for Wonder Woman, which I still think is unlikely, but it's a possibility that just keep in mind. And my personal possibility that she could be DLC. And DLC's 5 through 10, because I think there's going to be 10 DLC. No clue. Absolutely no clue who those could be. They're very, it's more open to be DLC 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wait, huh? Did I count that right? Oh yeah, because we're going to have 29, 30, 40, and we only have 38 slots 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then one more DLC. And then you have your 40 character roster, which I think Injustice 2 is going to have. Now, here are my wants. Here's the things I would love to see. This from here on in is purely opinion. I have no data to back this up, but here's the stuff that I really want, and the things that are completely unrealistic. The first thing being completely unrealistic is the first thing I would do is that I'm going to actually take from... I'm going to reveal one of the characters now. Oh wait, honorable mentions. Honorable mentions, I forgot about that. I have 2 honorable mentions here. The Arkham Knight, who I did not put a picture in here, only because he's in the first Injustice game, may be able to make it in, because the Arkham Knight has also been solidified as an actual character in the DC Comics. So he or she has a chance to make it into the game. And the other one, we'll be doing a lot of trimming here because it's at 45 minutes, and I don't imagine you guys want to stick around for that long. And the other honorable mention, and I'll show you why in a minute, is Brother Worf. Or Brother Worf. Worf. Yes, this elephant-looking guy. He is a Blue Lantern, which is the Lantern Corps of Hope, and I'm actually going to use him to to show you what my impossible want is. I want the Joker gone. I want the Joker gone. Even if it's for one game, if he makes DLC, whatever. I want the Joker gone. I'm tired of the Joker. I'm sick of the Joker. Okay, him being in Injustice 1, fine. Makes perfect sense. I understand he has a big part to play in that story, and it's from another universe. Injustice 2. From Harley Quinn's perspective, it's important, but he didn't need to be on the launch roster. Red Hood, or literally any of the other DLC characters that were not guests, could have been in that slot instead, had a part in the story, a bigger part in the story, and then have the Joker be a non-playable character until he becomes DLC, just like Tanya was from Mortal Kombat X. And in Injustice 3, the only reason why I have him on the roster to begin with is just because of how popular he is. But I, personally, myself, absolutely do not want the Joker back. If the Joker disappeared from the face of the Injustice roster for 1 game, 2 games, 5 games, 10 games, doesn't matter. If Joker disappeared for any length of time from the roster in Injustice, as in never made the roster for at least the launch roster for 1 game, made DLC, fine, he's DLC. But if he never made the launch roster for 1 game, I would be completely happy with that. 100%. And if roster space and the like wasn't a problem, and some story things weren't a problem, I could tell you right now what the other characters would be that I would want to have come back. I would want Shazam as DLC, or whoever. I would want Shazam back. I would want Zatanna back as launch. I'm just going to have them kind of start cropping up above the roster because these are my wants and not necessarily anything else. Now, I want Zatanna specifically as launch, and I forgot to cut. Never mind. I thought I was gonna have Lobo on here, but on second thought I saw that I didn't. So no Lobo. It's all good. Lobo gets an honorable mention, I guess. And then we have your boy Sinestro, who is one of several characters that fit a specific theme. Oh my shit! I completely forgot a character. I completely forgot about Larfleeze. I think there's a reason why I want specifically why I gotta stop saying I want, because these aren't things I want. It's like I default to that, but it's not what I'm trying to say. The reason why I think Larfleeze is going to be in the game is for a very key reason. Every Injustice game to date has had 2 lanterns. Hal and an evil one. Atrocitus, Sinestro, you get the idea. I think Mortal Kombat 11 has led me to believe that Larfleeze might be in the game. because Collector is totally a Larfleeze ripoff. He steals what he sees what he wants, he takes it, he steals it, and he's got a very Larfleezy vibe to him. So I think Larfleeze would be the lantern that they pick. But he's not the only one that he's not not only not my first pick for lanterns, but he's not the only one I would want, because I think the lantern cores, all the lantern cores, have all been severely underrepresented. So in theory, if Injustice 3 goes Necron, we could see a much more colorful roster, including the likes of Star Sapphire. This is her Infinite Crisis artwork. We can see the likes of Star Sapphire and Saint Walker as well. And I actively want these two in as well. Actively want these two to be in the game. And then Indigo 1. She's another one that I really want, especially because she is the entity of compassion. Her along with Saint Walker are a couple of the most obscure lanterns in the game, in the DC universe. The ones that never really show up. So these 6, is it 6? 1, 2. Oh yeah. And I'm just gonna clear my blanks for a second. Cassandra Cain's in the way. All right, give me a sec. I'm gonna move Cassandra Cain over to cover Sub-Zero, because Atrocitus would be the other one that I would want. Atrocitus would be the other guy that I want. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm missing somebody. Lo and behold, there you go. I'm gonna turn the blanks back on, and then I'm gonna move Batgirl back. So because I'm gonna clear my wants, I'm gonna clear Brother Worf out of here. There we go. So this, I think, is going to be what the final version of the roster is ultimately going to look like. I ultimately think that the launch version of the roster is going to look something like this. I predict that I've got about 50% of this roster correctly picked out. And 10 of those are the guarantees that I mentioned before, Batman, Superman, and so on, and the Mortal Kombat DLC character. And some of these characters are definitely more likely to come back than others, but this is what you're looking at. This is what I think the Injustice 3 launch roster is approximately going to look like. Crappy Photoshop job aside. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to be awesome, guys, and I'll see you on the other side. I'm a grenade without